Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Trails Radio Show. Thank you for joining us this morning. Today, our special guest is MC, interviewer, actor, Mr. Richard Skipper. Thank you, and join us in a minute. My first question to you is, how did your career begin? Where did it all begin for you?
Oh my God! How much time do you have?
We have.
Okay. I will. I am originally from South Carolina. I grew up in a small town called Conway, which is the gateway to Myrtle Beach, which is more familiarly known. And when I grew up, I was born in 1961, so I'm a product of 1960s and 70s television, and that was a world of variety shows and celebrities from both my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation. And that was the show business that I wanted to be a part of. I loved those variety shows. And so when I was 13 years old, I started acting with my local theater company, which was the Theater of the Republic in South Carolina. And there was a wonderful woman by the name of Florence Epps, who was a former actress herself, but had devoted her later years to teaching others acting. And she took me under her wings, and she became my mentor, and I started working with her. And then when I was 13, I read a book called The Magic of Believing by Claude M. Bristol. And in the book, it said, set your mind on the goal like a homing pigeon and go after it with dogged determination. So I closed the book, and I announced on that day that 5 years from that day I would come to New York. And I did. I arrived in New York on August 5th, 1979. I had $500 in my pocket. I had never been away from home. I had never flown. I didn't know many people in New York. I didn't know anyone in New York, to be honest with you. And I came to New York. And I got my first acting job 3 weeks after arriving in New York. And that basically, in a nutshell, is how it all started.
There you go, and you're still at it, still acting, still interviewing, doing everything.
Yes, I'm still at it.
Definitely. What do you find is the most challenging part or the most difficult part being in this business?
Well, the most challenging part and the most difficult part about it is 2020. I mean, the fact that we have this pandemic that, for the most part, has crippled the industry. Broadway theaters are shut down. There are no opportunities for live performance anywhere. So all of us in the arts, and as you know, that's how you and I have come to know each other, have gone onto the Internet. And we're using the Internet to get our message out there. I've always loved other performers, and over the years, in addition to everything else that I was doing, I was also doing a lot of celebrity interviews. I've done on-stage interviews, and I used to write a blog, and that was a lot of work. So I've interviewed over the years over 1,000 people in the industry, people who are just starting out, people who are well-known, people who have retired from the industry, or sometimes the industry retires them. Excuse me. And so when the pandemic started and I was thinking what I wanted to do as the next step in my life, one of the goals that I had for this year was to start my own podcast. And the first person that I reached out to was Leslie Ann Warren, and she said yes. And I interviewed her, and that was over the radio. That there's a thing called Blog Talk Radio, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And that's where it started for me. But I always wanted to do the on-screen interviews, because I love to be able to look at the people that I'm talking to and to really get a chance to know them visually, if at all possible. And when Facebook was first set up with Facebook Live, it was not set up in a format that was able to do that. So little by little, and I guess is StreamYard, which is the platform that I use, and there's another one called Be Live, which I used for just a few moments, which I liked, but it was not as user-friendly as StreamYard. So this is, a lot easier to do. And, I'm busier than I've ever been. It's amazing.
Definitely. I'm fascinated with interviews because it's what I do. I've been interviewing. I'm 20, and I've started interviewing when I was 13. I started young. And it's fun. I've interviewed actors like Ed Asner, Joan Van Ark, Peter Marshall, all kind of people. It's incredible.
That's great. And now you're interviewing me.
There you go.
After Ed Asner, you can only go up from there.
Definitely.
I love Ed Asner.
Oh, definitely. He's a nice man. Very nice.
Yeah.
My next question to you is: do you have any upcoming interviews? You said you're busy. Do you have a lot of upcoming interviews coming up?
Yeah, I'm going to be interviewing this guy named Trey Old. You may have heard of him, and I'm looking forward to that. No, I've got interviews. I am, of course, taking off Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And on New Year's Day, I'm just going to do like a special message to everybody. But just in the next few days alone, today I'm interviewing Rita Harvey and Peter Danish. They have a new CD out called Simple Prayers for Challenging Times. How appropriate. That came out on December 1st. So I'm interviewing them this afternoon. And then on Monday, tomorrow, I'm interviewing James Morgan, who is the artistic director of the York Theater here in New York, which is an off-Broadway theater. And later this week, I'm interviewing Cissy Wellman, who is the daughter of William Wellman, the great Hollywood film director and producer. Mm-hmm. So I've got a lot coming up.
Definitely, and it keeps you busy. And
it keeps me busy. It gives me a focus. It gives me, I don't have time to think about my own place on this planet and where I fit into everything, because my focus is on other people. I'm reading a lot. I'm reading a 900-page book on Spencer Tracy, and I'm interviewing the author of that book next Monday. So these things keep me really busy.
Definitely, and you enjoy it. That's the main thing, enjoying
Oh, my God. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it. The interesting thing about this business is it's a very tough business. A lot of people want to go into it. There are long stretches of time where you're without work. You're being scrutinized constantly before social media like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything. You got bad reviews or good reviews. And everybody, unfortunately, in this business really coast through the business based on the most immediate things that are happening to them. For example, if an actor is in a hit show or a hit film, they're able to ride on that for a moment. But if it's the opposite of that, they are riding on that as well. And so the whole world is looking at you with every move that you make. And Judy Garland once said that the longer you're in the business, the harder it gets, because everybody wants you to be as good as you were the last time they saw you. Not as good, but better. And so you're constantly having to reinvent yourself. And I've reinvented myself more times than most people will do in a lifetime.
Definitely. It's a changing business, always changing, and everyone thinks it's these younger people. Well, I'm young, but people my age who have a different mindset, they think they'll become a overnight sensation. That doesn't happen, or big
but
money.
Even if they do become an overnight sensation, many times when that happens, because it does happen, they have not had the training. They don't have the discipline. If, let's say, for example, that you go and audition for a major Broadway musical, and you get cast in that musical, 8 shows a week is a lot of hard work. You have to discipline yourself to the fact where you have no social life beyond that. You are constantly, it's all about the work, it's about the theater, and if you're lucky enough to get into a long-running show, that's going to go for a long time. And many times you also audition for something, and you rehearse for 6-7 weeks if you're lucky, and then you can open and it can close the same night. So many people are not prepared for that. And that's, what makes this business so difficult. It's the only business that I can think of where you can get all the training you want in the world, but it doesn't put you on a steady course. I mean, if you become, a doctor or a lawyer or a plumber or a teacher, for the most part, you go, you get a job, and you work 9 to 5, for as long as you're doing a great job. But in this business, no matter how great you are, there are extenuating and outside circumstances. When you walk into an audition, you can be the greatest actor in the world. But if you're not what they're looking for when you walk through that door, it doesn't matter how great you are. It doesn't matter what your training is. It doesn't matter what your resume is. And then when you get cast in the show, it's a matter of whether or not the audiences are going to come and see the show. I mean, think about this for just a moment. All the theaters shut down on March 12th. And the night that the theaters shut down, there was a new Broadway musical called Six, which was about the 6 wives of Henry VIII. Mm-hmm. And that show, with all the work that all of these people put into that show, they didn't even have a chance to open that night. And that's debilitating to a lot of people. And we don't know, even if there's a vaccine, it may take us 2 or 3 years to get back to Broadway. And, when a show opens, it takes, a fair amount of time to promote it, to get the word out. And there's no way that theaters, based on the current paradigm, can even operate the way that a lot of these theaters need to operate. You can't operate at 50%. You can't.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to give it your all, give it your best. You can't just do it halfway.
No, that's true.
And another thing I always tell people about challenging and difficult in this business is when you go in for an audition, and you touched on this a little bit, is rejection. You don't get the audition, you don't get the part. Casting directors automatically have their mind already made up for their actor who they want. It takes a really good actor to convince them otherwise. And
well, I was very fortunate. I was good friends with Carol Channing, and as you know, she had an amazing career.
Oh, yeah.
But she once said to me, she says, for every person who likes you in this industry or this business, there are an equal number who don't. Get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. They're, even now doing these interviews, there are some people that do it better than I do. There's some people that are more well-known than I am. There's some people who do it worse than I do. And they may get a bigger audience than I do. It doesn't matter. All I'm responsible for is what I put out to the world. And I try to put out the best product that I can put out. And my hope is that people are interested. And if they're interested, they're going to buy it. And if they're not interested, I hope they find what they're looking for.
Absolutely. You have to have that positive mindset. And that's very important, to stay positive and to have that mindset and a great sense of humor, which I think you have a great sense of humor.
Oh, you have to. Oh, my God, if I didn't have that, I'd have nothing.
Definitely. It's a tough business, but if you have the passion for it, the craft for it, you're going to succeed.
That's right. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And you have to understand that you have to know what is important to you as an artist. Everybody doesn't make it to Broadway. Everybody doesn't make it to an Academy Award-winning film. Everybody doesn't make it to a hit television show. Every book does not become a bestseller. But if you enjoy the process, you enjoy what you're doing, and you just go